One of the most bizarre career paths of all time, by the way. Playing at Coventry until you're 24 and a half is a very weird way to become a world-class striker. You don't see that very often. Do you fancy Gyökeres at 100 million release clause? Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe. That is Stephen Howson, and we are going to be looking at signings that Ruben Amorim may need to make in order to turn this side into a title challenging side.
Oh God,
that's got to be the expectation, Steve, because everyone else who tries it and doesn't get there gets sacked.
I know,
so
but
that's
calling it a title-winning squad when the guy's literally, I don't even know if he's been to Greg's yet. You know what I mean?
He might not have been to Greg's, to be fair. Well, once he's got a couple
Do you reckon
of...
it's on get yourself settled, get yourself a Greg's.
You know when you go into an Airbnb and there's that local cuisine? It's just that, but Greg's 8 times. I think it's possible. Maybe not. These signings won't necessarily make us a title challenging side, but the steps that we need to take to get there, and the positions in particular that we need to take. So obviously, Amorim, everyone knows by now, likes a 3-4-3 or has done so far in his career. Do you think
Bruno will be able to win a title? Because I don't think it's realistic to expect us to win a title this season.
No.
Or next season.
No.
It only starts becoming can we challenge in the following season and then maybe win one the year after the year after? When did Barada say we want to win the title by?
2028.
2028. So that is 4 years away. Mm-hmm. Bruno Fernandez the Manchester United player.
I hope so. I think he probably will be if he wants to be. He's got that kind of Modric sort of body style where he's not very tall. There's no fat on him.
Plays at a serious level.
He does play at a serious level.
Redlining.
Which might not last forever.
So... the reason I asked that, if you're planning for how do we win the title, do you replace him?
Maybe you do. We'll get into that. Let's start with wing-backs. I think that's the most sort of pressing and crucial area because it's literally a position on the pitch that United have never needed anyone to play before for any sort of length of time.
Did we put Donald Love there for a minute under Louis van Gaal?
Maybe for about 28 minutes. I think there was flickers of 3 at the back under Van Gaal.
Have a look. I want to know who played wing-back for us, because I've got a feeling like Di Maria might have played wing-back.
It might have been Di Maria. It might have been Fosu Mensah.
He played on the right of the 3, I think.
And then I think there's a couple of games under Solskjaer where we played 3 at the back.
Wasn't wing-back, so...
But it wasn't...
it was full-backs.
Yeah, so we haven't really... Yeah, that was 5 at the back, let's be honest. So we've never really done this. So for the first time in United's history...
We might not do it now.
Well, let's... firstly, do you think we will then?
I have no idea. So he played a lot of 4-2-3-1 and he's played 4-3-3. He might get here and say, hey, that don't work in a Prem. Or I don't think it works in a Prem, so here's X, Y, and Z. We have no idea. We're all presuming, because that's what he's been very successful with Sporting, that he's just going to come and deliver that. I'm open to the idea that he goes, do you know what? Yeah, I wouldn't mind playing that, but we'll deal with that in June and we'll carry on playing 4-2-3-1 to the end of the season. I think both of those are possible.
Producer Ethan saying that Darmian played as
that makes sense.
Back as well.
Yeah, he was definitely a fullback.
Yeah, he was a centre back now for Inter Milan. So it wasn't exactly the most attacking of players. Let's
took a mean throw in though.
He did, and he was decent for that first game. Let's look at the potential options then, because there is a decent chance that we need wing backs here. It's worth saying that most games he's managed, he has put his team out as a 3 at the back. So let's go through some
which suits us actually
options.
With the options we've got at centre half. I know you want to skip straight to the wing backs, but in terms of centre half options, Sir Johnny of Evans has been doing just absolutely stellar work. 9 out of 10 on a weekly basis. I don't think he's put a foot wrong since that Wrexham game.
Yeah, and that was a pre-season friendly, so I don't really mind it.
Victor Lindelof looks good, dare I say. You got Harry Maguire who's out injured at the moment, but that would be your 3 backup centre halves:
not bad, is it?
Euro, De Ligt, and Martinez.
Yeah,
and you might even throw Mazraoui in there as one of the wider ones.
Or maybe Luke Shaw. He's played as a sort of left centre back before.
He did a good job there too.
He did against Man City, another game. So I think that's why I'm almost sort of going straight to the wing backs, because I think whilst we may need to bring in more centre backs as Evans retires or Maguire leaves or Lindelof, I think at the minute we've got 6 centre backs, all of which could have a slot in that kind of back 3 system. And like you said, this fullbacks who could sort of come in there as well. I think it's the wing back areas where we're going to struggle a little bit more. Let's start with a big name, someone who, whenever a wing back is mentioned, not big in terms of length, but big in terms of stature in the game. When anyone says wing back, most people these days think of Jeremy Frimpong. what they did at Leverkusen last season, went undefeated in
They
the
essentially
Bundesliga.
played a 3-4-3. And I know on paper they were 4-2-3-1, but they very much played actually it's more like a 3-2-5, really. Like Jeremy Frimpong didn't even pretend to be a fullback.
No.
He was a winger. But yeah, in terms of like wing backs, Jeremy Frimpong, oh my good God.
Yeah.
I'd pick him up and piggyback him on.
We've got, in terms of numbers for him, these are slightly disingenuous because he's being compared to fullbacks. So when you compare him to his contemporaries, you've got people like Darmian, who are fullbacks but don't leave their own half. And you're looking at his progressive carries at 4.92 per game, and he's in the top 2%. Well, of course he is, because most people aren't expected to do the offensive output that he is. But just for the sake of getting the numbers on there, he's in the top 1 percentile for touches in the opposition box with 7.7 per game. Progressive passes, again, he's in the top 1% with 12.7 per game. And versus, he's also got 26 goal contributions in 47 games last season, which is amazing, obviously, as a wing back. Do you think that he's the sort of player that Amorim would like? Is it remotely feasible? He's got that connection where obviously he came through at Man City. For anyone who didn't know that, he speaks great English. He knows Manchester. Do you see that as a possibility?
Have you heard him speak?
He's got a bit of a Manc accent, but not.
I wouldn't have even bothered saying he speaks great English.
Yeah.
You could be confused for thinking he's English.
Yeah, it's perfect English. Yeah.
I think his brother played for Paddock. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that. Is he a Frimpong as well?
His surname's not Frimpong. Oh. He's a very, very good coach in the city centre, though. Does very much like Hopper. He's one of those that does that sort of stuff. Very good coach. So we kind of had a little bit of an inside track on some of the talk going around with Jeremy. There was something in it a while ago.
Right. 10 Hag this is, yeah?
Yeah. So, yes, fairly recent. Obviously, nothing materialised out of that, and he went and had is he ever going to have a better season than what he had last season?
Probably his career season, that one, isn't it? I think,
and not on his own. There was a few in that team that probably had those sort of career seasons. For me, I'd love him at United. I think just someone with that sort of attacking... We're talking a little bit... We've mentioned this a few times, haven't we? Ronaldinho doesn't come through in this day and age. You know, there's certain players that maybe just get overlooked because of the sort of focus on athleticism and systems that you get with modern football. Jeremy's a little bit of a throwback in terms of he's just sort of like very all-out attack and very exciting to watch and actually very good.
Yeah.
So would I like him at United? Yeah. Would Ruben Amorim like him at United? I don't see any attributes that he has that Ruben Amorim wouldn't like, or there's any deficiencies in his game where he'd be like, well, actually, no. Yeah. I think he would be a perfect fit for him. That value of, what was it saying there?
41 million.
Not a prayer.
No.
Not a
Probably
prayer.
looking at double that.
I would think you're doubling that, yeah. And can we afford to do that? So is he almost too obvious because of the price that's going to come? Can we find, what did he end up going there for?
It wasn't a lot.
It was nothing, wasn't it?
No.
It's like $1 million or something.
Something like, we can get that up in a second.
You need to find that player maybe before they become what Jeremy Frimpong currently represents.
Or get him on the last year of the deal rather than his that runs out in 2028. So they've got no real reason to sell him. No. The only thing, it was 11 million that he went to Leverkusen for. But the only thing that maybe would allow him to leave for a value slightly less than that is if Alonso leaves, and maybe there was something behind the scenes of like, let's, last ride kind of, everyone stay one more season, get you on new contracts.
Works, has it, from?
Well, I think they're fourth so far this season.
They've been good, but they've not been anywhere near.
No, and it was always going to happen though, wasn't it? I think you can't go from, being a mid-table side to...
They lost one game, Joe.
I know. Well, they were undefeated across the whole league season, which is incredible.
But the game they lost is a cup final.
Yeah, where they got absolutely Adamola Lookman in the Europa League final. Right, let's move on from him then. Another Bundesliga player, This one is in the last season of his contract, which makes this one potentially more possible, but there's going to be shitloads of suitors. This is Alphonso Davies, Canadian left back, Bayern Munich. Most people know who he is. Absolutely rapid. Sort of on his day is just an unplayable kind of physical machine. Has been accused at times of not necessarily putting the work in, but then there's question marks about him wanting to leave Bayern last season for Real Madrid that never materialised. Mentioned Real Madrid, they want him, Barca want him, City have been mentioned with him, I think Liverpool got linked with him as well. He can play left wing at times as well, left back, definitely can play that left wing back role. Do you like him? Do you see that as a possibility?
Yes, on both counts. United still can attract that player.
Yeah.
And now people might not want it to be the reason, but we would offer wages comparable to anyone in the world. And ultimately that does turn heads and make things get over the line. I do like him. He is very attacking, but it's not... him and Frimpong, for me, they're not an issue when you've got a back three.
Yeah.
They're an issue when it's a back four, because they're not going to be there. They're playing on the wing.
Yeah.
When you've got a back three, well, now they're an asset. If you had both of them, Jeebus, like you would need... You definitely need Ugarte. You might need another Ugarte alongside Ugarte in front of that back three, because them two are not going to see your half of the pitch.
So how does a wing back work then? Because obviously in everyone's head it's you attack like a winger, you defend like a fullback. But physically that's almost impossible to do. You can't have everything from one player all at once.
Depends on the match. Look at the City game the other week. They did not attack. The wing backs was part of the back five. It depends on the game and the game state. So I think Anfield away, you might be looking at pick Darmian more. Ipswich at home, Jeremy Frimpong gets the nod, doesn't it? Or Jeremy Frimpong plays, but you've got three defenders alongside him in case that he does go on a bit of an adventure and you can cover up for that. You can't expect them. And I think Dalot's suffering with this a little bit at the moment. He's being asked to play very high up the pitch. It's taxing, stamina-wise, but also concentration-wise, to switch from thinking about, am I +1? Am I making sure that we're marking this guy, to basically being the outlet on the far right side of the pitch. It's a different sort of mindset shift. And one of the reasons why Frimpong was so successful last season is because they just alleviated him of all defensive responsibility. And they just went, you just go and put pressure on in the back line, overload that back line, break into the box, do bits, see what happens.
Yeah, I think I do. You mentioned Dalot there. Do you think that any of our current options can be top level wing backs? So not necessarily, the top elite, but that kind of very good at their job as wing backs. Shaw, Malacia, Dalot, Mazraoui.
Darmian seems to have a weekly clangor in him.
Dalot, you mean?
What did I just say?
Darmian. We're still talking about Darmian from before when he used to be at United.
Take me back. that throw-in.
Yeah, what a throw-in.
Italian Gary Neville.
Yeah.
Dalot.
Yeah.
Has still got a clangor in him. Weekly, I think. Teams fall on their weakness rather than rise to their best player, generally. So I'm inclined to say no with Dalot. I think probably not. I think you might be serviceable.
Yeah.
Until you're able, you deal with all of the other issues in the squad, like the fact that we don't have a left side wing back.
Yeah.
The fact that we don't have anyone scoring up front. You deal with those sorts of things. You maybe bring in potential replacements for Casemiro before it's drastic. Maybe even a replacement for Bruno before it's drastic. Then you can maybe go, actually, go on, let's upgrade that. We've got 5 minutes. But I think it's not necessarily a priority, because he probably couldn't just slot into that role and do a quite close to what someone's looking for job.
Yeah. What about the others on the left-hand side in particular? Malacia, Shaw, let's say they're both fit for 35 games or whatever a season. Do you think they can do it?
There's a reason I play the Euro Millions.
Yeah.
From a technical point of view, Luke Shaw could absolutely play it. Being real, no. We just need to draw a line on the Luke Shaw in Manchester United.
I think.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
It's fucking Phil Jones. And how many players have we seen we've done this? We just go, give him another chance, give him another chance. No, just be fucking ruthless. Find the next Luke Shaw.
Yeah.
And give him the opportunity.
Well, speaking of the next Luke Shaw, the next person on the list is Alvaro Fernandez, who we sold this summer to Benfica. He's played 10 games, got 2 goals, 1 assist, 21 years old. He's in the top 10% for successful crosses, top 9% for successful passes with 428. He's also in the top 11% for successful dribbles in the Liga NOS. We sold him for 5 million. We've got a buyback clause of 16 million. Would you be looking at him? Is he just one for the back burner? Or if you're Ruben Amorim, you're thinking...
I wouldn't have sold him in the fucking first place.
Yeah.
It made no sense to sell
the lack of alternatives.
Mostly the lack of alternatives, to be honest. But I also thought, like, I've got this thing, right? If you can play football in the Championship and succeed, you can play football. It's as simple as that, right? I don't care what team it is. If you can go and look good and compete in the Championship... You can play football. Look at from Ivan Toney to Jack Grealish and countless others that have played in the Championship and then come into the Premier League and just looked as good. It's a brutal league. The technical level average is not as high as the Premier League, but it's as physically demanding, if not more demanding. And I think if you can play football and understand football in the Championship, it carries. And I think we saw that with Alvaro anyway when he was at Preston. And was he Young Player of the Year?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right? And he was a teenager then, I think, when we sent him out on loan there. And then he didn't get any opportunities at United. We saw him on pre-season. I know it's just pre-season, but he looked great on pre-season. And then why not? Like, I didn't understand, especially when Luke Shaw, you knew he's probably not going to be fit, right? And he came back unfit from pre-season. So we knew then, right? And would there not have been any sort of inkling beforehand? And Malacia has basically been fucking missing. So why would you just think... And and there was obviously some sort of issue with Harry Amas, hence why he's not had a fucking minute yet.
Yeah.
So why not? Why not?
It almost felt like Ineos wanted to show everyone that they could sell players in contrast to the Glazers who have just not been able to do that whatsoever. I think it was over 100 million we got in through player sales. I think it was other than the season we sold Ronaldo, the most we've ever made in a single window from selling players. And obviously Ronaldo went for 80 million. I think they almost kind of wanted people to go, oh, hang on a sec, they're doing things differently.
Maybe, yeah.
And maybe he was sort of swept up in that a little bit. But he hadn't really ever been given the opportunities. And if it was because Ten Hag didn't fancy him, the season started with Ten Hag as the manager. So they probably said to him, has he got any chance of playing? And if he said no, then I guess, that would have been it. But it does look like one where we might have got it wrong. But a 60 million buyback, yes, we'll stomach a 9 million loss on it. But for the sake of him going and playing top-level football at a very good standard at Benfica.
If you tried to buy him from Benfica without the prior United connection and clause, was it 3 times that? Yeah,
you're probably looking at 30 million minimum, aren't you? So maybe that could be a decent one. Would you be up for that? Does that look weak, or do you think it could affect his mindset of...
he might not want it. Like, we're sitting here saying, let's have him. And he might be like, you didn't give me a pissing chance last time. Why would I come back? I'm playing here. I'm playing. I'm loving it. The weather's nice.
Yeah.
No. How about that?
Yeah.
Like, that could happen. Like, we always forget that the player's got a say in this as well.
Yeah. Looking at sort of other areas, United don't score many goals, as we've talked about constantly. In terms of attackers, is there anyone that interests you? I mean, obviously Harry Kane was mentioned a couple of years ago. That ship probably has sailed. But on the other hand, does he want to come back to the Premier League at some point, try and challenge for Shearer's record? Is that a possibility? Are there other names?
He's got fuck all else going in his career, has he?
Do you know what I mean? He's going to win the league probably this season with Bayern. Victor Gyökeres, we'll get into some of the sporting links in a minute, but he's one of the names mentioned.
German football, please. Come on, it's fucking hilarious if he doesn't, isn't it?
I feel bad.
I don't.
He's the best player by not even anyone close to him that hasn't ever won a trophy in his career. He is by far the best player of all time to not win a trophy. There's no one close. I was thinking about this the other week. I mean, there must be someone from the 1920s when there's only one thing you could win. But in the modern era, no one gets even close to him. For 0 silverware of any description, there's no one. It's mental.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, like, he's one of the best strikers in the world and has been for about 7 years. And he's never won anything. If he wins the league with Bayern Munich, do you think he goes, right, I've ticked that off now, back to England? Or
but then does he suit the system? He's not a line leading 9.
No.
Like, if you're playing with 2 10s, you put Harry Kane in there, you're playing with 3 10s.
Yeah.
You're not playing with a 9. He doesn't want to play there. That's not what his game is.
That's true.
So now I don't think it suits the system.
Moving on to the Sporting players then, because that's always going to be links. And typically, managers bring at least one player with them. That's not just a United Ten Hag thing. That's just football thing. Victor Gyökeres carrying on with the striker theme.
Only told you to sign him last summer.
One of the most bizarre career paths of all time, by the way. Playing at Coventry until you're 24 and a half is a very weird way to become a world-class striker. You don't see that very often. And I don't know if he is world-class. That's kind of the question being asked of him now. He's got, I think, 63 goals in 65 games since he joined Sporting at the start of last season. It's phenomenal strike rate.
I mean, Bruno Fernandez came and delivered the same amount of goals and assists he was delivering at Sporting.
Yeah.
That would tell me that it's at least possible.
It's possible.
And the exchange rate maybe isn't what people think it is.
I mean, you look at, obviously there's contrasting fortunes to that. Some of the players that have left, Benfica in particular, have sold very well over the last decade. João Felix never really lived up to that 100 million.
He's a weird position though, isn't he? Like,
He is. He's not a goal scorer.
I don't know where you fit him in most teams, to be honest. He's very much a unique position.
He is. But slightly more conventionally then, you've got Darwin Núñez, obviously, at Liverpool. First season, I think it was, didn't do too well. Second season, 20 plus goals, 10 plus assists. He's very wasteful, so he's not like the finished product, but he's getting numbers. Do you fancy Gyökeres at 100 million release clause?
I just don't think you're getting him.
No?
No.
Where's he going?
I just think... I don't know, but I just don't think United have got that money. Like, if we can't... I know people want us to, but you've got to be real with this. We are... But unless we're going to have our arse crack sponsored by Ineos for $1 billion...
Would you do it?
Would I do it?
Your own ass crack?
1,000,000%. Yeah. If Jim wants to get on the phone and make me drive around one of them fucking Grenadier things, I'm here for him, right?
In the arse, and then next to it, brackets in the arse. That's how you sort of meant to pronounce it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do it.
Yeah, we do that. The realities of PSR and FFP are real, and United can't probably physically or justify 180 million on like a Frimpong and a Gyökeres. You just can't. You just can't do that.
And it does seem as though, by the sound of it, Barada in particular, and I guess Ashworth as well, there was talk of a sort of soft limit of around 60 million, wasn't there?
Per player.
That kind of Man
City style. Kind of what City did, yeah. City was very successful with that. Or, there is some suspicion that there was one hand over the table and one hand under the table, but
that's true.
Yeah, that's not been proven.
But you look at some of the players they signed in and around that ballpark. Sterling was 50, Mahrez I think was 65, Diaz, Laporte.
All of them.
They're all about 50, 60 million. So like maybe that's going to be the new thing. Just in terms of take that out of it, do you think he's good enough to lead the line for United and us push towards the Cities and Liverpools?
I did a video back when I was at Coventry. I think he was valued at like between 8 mil, something along those lines. And I thought it'd be good. Didn't think it was like come in and start and lead the line, but obviously he hadn't done what he'd done with Sporting Lisbon in the last year or so. I think on the goals he scored right now, you'd have to give him the opportunity to go for it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure is the truth, but clearly the system is set up for him.
Yeah,
with the way it is at Sporting at the moment. But for the amount of people that lost their shit with us signing all the Ajax players, can't really see it going down so well when our first protocol is fucking straight over to Lisbon.
Boy. It's mad though, isn't it? Because it's like people have sort of come to this conclusion of if it's anything that United have tried in the last 10 years, you cannot try it again because it will fail. Like if you do anything that we did when Jose was here, or you can't have another interim manager take over. Look at Solskjaer
and a striker as well.
Yeah, exactly. That can't happen. You can't have another manager dipping into their old club for players. Look at Ten Hag, but everyone's done that.
Yeah,
but, Jose did it. Sir Alex did it. That, yeah. Literally every manager at every club has done that.
Or back to their league. Brian McClare. Can you imagine doing that now? It's literally signing Anthony, but actually successful. Like, in terms of bringing Brian McClare in from Motherwell.
Yeah.
What does he know about English football?
Yeah, did all right.
Exactly.
Just moving on to some other players from Sporting, because I personally do expect us to try and get at least one player from Sporting. And, I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea. You need someone who knows the rules.
Do they think it's a bad idea?
Ineos.
No. Sporting.
Well, come on. We've had everything else. Just give us one little player. We've taken like the assistant. I think we've got 6 members of staff from it.
Someone needs to just show them like, hey, look at Ajax's bank balance.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, play the game.
That can be you. What you have to do is just wait till the end of the window and we'll give you 90 million for whatever it is we end up buying.
It's a tractor.
Yeah, we'll give you 80 million. Gonzalo Inácio, who's a centre-back / centre defensive midfielder, 23 years old, played nearly 200 times for Sporting. Seems to be that kind of link between the midfield and defence. Don't know loads about him, but he's left-footed, can play left-back, left centre-back as well at times. Is he a name that you're aware of, that you're interested in?
Yeah, I just think I think the back line is fine. I think Martinez does that role, and I can see Martinez doing that role, stepping into midfield and doing that and doing it very well.
Yeah.
I'm sure even if we're not going to go, we're definitely going to be linked.
Yeah, we are. I mean, one of the people we're definitely going to be linked with is Giovanni Quenda, who's kind of like the up-and-coming star of that.
Yeah, I'm doing a scout report on him.
Okay, so you know a little bit about him already, but for people who don't, 17 years old, rumoured to be about sort of 40 million. He's a wing-back / right-back.
Yeah, it's the new Anthony. We're going to get our ass handed to us.
Well, yeah, but 45 million, he's got a release clause of 100 million, by the way, so I can see.
So we might pay it.
Yeah, exactly. We've got the 3rd best dribble success rate of anyone in the league. He's obviously very talented, incredibly young. Maybe you could get him for cheaper than, a Frimpong might be 75, this guy might be 45. Are you interested in him? Obviously, you got your full report coming out. People check that out.
Yeah, that'd be weekend. Yeah, he's a good player. We're doing a scout report on him because he's a valid option.
Yeah.
But again, tempered a little bit with, I just get the vibe that we're going to get our ass handed to us if we go back to Sporting. I don't think that they were so keen to let him go.
Yeah.
Kind of showcased a little bit by, keep it all doing for an extra couple of games. Did all right as well, to be fair.
Did okay. Just moving on from players then. Fabrizio Romano has sort of done a tweet about Amorim's kind of general philosophy about what he wants to bring in, regardless of the specifics of these players we mentioned. Romano said, "What I can tell you on the market is, from what I'm hearing, the first indication from Amorim to Manchester United directors is we need to bring players with intensity." That was the crucial word he mentioned with opening doors and meetings he had with Man United. Intensity, intensity, intensity. That's another thing that we've spoken about before, of like the fundamentals below the tactics are your players working hard enough? Are they properly going for it? Are they even willing to buy into the tactics? Is that something that you think, as a general philosophy of who we're going to bring in, that's probably the right way to go?
Yeah, because it's not in the squad.
No.
I mean,
Ugarte's got it.
It's unfair to sort of paint the entire squad with it. Bruno's got it.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of good character in the squad. I think De Ligt's a great character. I think Mazraoui's a fantastic character. I think Casemiro's a good character.
I think Martinez is.
Yeah, Martinez as well. Even though I think they're not necessarily there with the decisions or the ability, I think Garnacho and Højlund have got a good attitude and good spirit and want to succeed for United. I get that from them, even if maybe the end product isn't quite there with either of them. And I think I know, basically got it from one of the lads that was there in the training session. When Ollie came, he was like, "I'm going to make you the fastest, most intense team in Europe." And he didn't.
No.
So did he not want to? Because he said he did.
Yeah.
I just don't think he was able to. And is that the fuckwits we had in charge of recruitment at the time? Maybe. They were maybe looking at Instagram metrics rather than intensity metrics. Yeah. I get the vibe. Ineos are going to want this guy to succeed. That's the first one they've gone all in. This is the biggest decision that they've made yet so far. They have to back him to the hill with exactly what he wants and needs. Otherwise, we see just a repeat of the last 10 years. So I would expect, I'm hoping as well, man, really need it, just to see some genuine intelligence in our recruitment to get us to that. And I think you have to recruit it, because as much as people just say, "Oh, just fucking be intense," it's inherent. Like, you couldn't have told Roy Keane to not be Roy Keane. And you can't necessarily, like, some players like Dimitar Berbatov would never work in a team like that.
No.
He's got a different skill set, and not everyone fits every system, not everyone fits every team. I think finding the players that are able to not just play the system, but play it on the right tune, that's going to be very important for us. And it's a weird thing to sort of scout as well. Is it the team that's intense or is he intense? That's not always clear, I don't think.
Yeah, because sometimes players playing in an intense team but aren't necessarily themselves that way. But yeah, I think that is going to be crucial. Amorim needs a team that, like, look at Ralph Rangnick at United and what happened there and how disastrous it was and how it didn't even look like they knew what
he wanted to do the same thing.
And then you look at him, was it Austria that he was managing in the World Cup? They had intensity. They were going for it. They were really difficult to beat and were gegenpressing, where many of this United squad who are still here weren't able to or willing to. So I do think it's inherent in players. And I think United definitely need more of that through the whole team. But we're going to have to wait and see, I suppose. I mean, I think it's exciting if nothing else, isn't it? Do you think we'll get players in January?
I keep saying it. I've got no info. I do keep saying it just because it's what I believe, right? I think we're going to end up with people on loan. Cavani, hopefully.
Right, thank you very much for joining us. That was a look at some of the players that Ruben Amorim might want to bring in to Manchester United. Cavani's still available, and he's probably going to want to be fit for the World Cup, so we may have one more season left in the Cavani tank.
Oh,
that'd be so good. See you in a bit.